Hello. The lighting in my room is just not good. Oh, I can't see. Contact problems. I switched to these daily contacts. They just don't have, I mean, duh, but they don't have the durability of the monthly contacts. But I'm also doing a bad in that I'm wearing my daily contacts for longer than a day. But they're expensive. Contacts are expensive. I haven't gone to the eye doctor and I have 90 contacts. And I'm like, if I wear them each for a week, then I've got 90 weeks now. That's almost 2 years of contacts. And I don't wear them every single day. I've moved to, I used to wear my contacts pretty much every single day. Especially when I was going to school or going into work. Lately, I've really only been wearing them half the time, especially since I switched to these daily contacts, which I don't like as much as my old monthly ones. I've been wearing them literally only less than half the week now. I only wear them 3 times a week and I wear my glasses the rest of the time. Whereas before it was I would only wear my glasses on the weekends. So anyways, I feel like I always film one of these hey, I'm back videos, or I'm just filming to film, and then I don't do anything. I ramble for 20 minutes and I'm like, okay, I felt good, and then I turn it off and I don't edit it and it just stays on my computer, never to be seen again. We'll see if this continues that or not. But hello, how are you? Relatively speaking, I hope you're doing fine. Everyone, it's always how are you doing? And I ask this too of other people, and the answer I feel is always okay. It's difficult to be doing good nowadays, or even fine nowadays. I always tell people I'm doing okay. And honestly, I think that's fine. I think in before COVID times, if you were only doing okay, it was all oh, what's wrong? But now I'm I'm doing okay. And it's all right, good, I'm doing okay too. The bar is lowered. But I don't think there's anything wrong with doing okay. Sometimes it's just okay. And okay is okay. I'm rambling. At the time of filming it, it's been 5 months since I released the last video. And it's been a while since I released just me talking. You guys know I'm in New York, Long Island, but hoping to go to the city. We've got a new hair. I think this hair is new. It was longer before. I cut it myself, as you can obviously tell. It was pretty rough the first week. My roommate was really nice about it in that he didn't say too much other than it's short. I already knew it wasn't too great, and then it started growing in better the week after. So now it's I kind of fake it, not looking terrible. And I'm trying to grow this mohawk kind of business out, because this shit always grows super fast and it outgrows this, and then we have to shave the whole thing. So now I'm just trying to grow it all the way down, trying to lean it all the way down. So my sides need to be shaved. I need to ask my roommate to do that. I'm really feeling my cozy academia look right now with this nice Nordic sweater and a turtleneck. I'm really feeling it. And I don't mind my hair. I don't really like this part. I just fucked this part up. But from the front looks generally okay. Looks fine. I like this kind of length. I might just stick with it. We're gonna have some fun hair journey if I even remember to film any of it. So I've been living in New York, or rather Long Island, New York to be specific, for 6 months, 7 months now. It's sure different from Long Beach and Los Angeles, I'll tell you that, to put it lightly. It's been interesting. I've been viewing the whole thing as a learning experience and a growth opportunity. I feel like I really enjoyed, the liberal bubble in Los Angeles. It felt safe. It was nice. I was, for once in my life, outside of going to Korea, surrounded by more Asians than I had ever been exposed to in one specific city or area or whatever. Just being oh, okay, I'm not people's token Korean friend anymore. Everyone knows what Korean barbecue is. People won't shut up about kimchi, right? And then I come out here and it's very white, at least in Long Island, very white. Which, Long Island's really segregated. It's not all white, but it's so segregated that if you're in a white area, you are in a white area. And actually, the area I'm in, even though it's like a white area, the white people consider it diverse because there's like a handful of non-white families on the block, right? And I notice it, and it's like that's not like really diverse, but okay, there's like enough to make a white person feel like, oh, it's not all white people here, but not enough to make them uncomfortable. Learning to deal with that and the conservative ideas that come with, I'm not going to call it values, that come with it, has been challenging, eye-opening, culture shock for sure. Like, I feel like I haven't gotten too much culture shock where I've gone, but here from LA to Long Island is probably the biggest culture shock I've ever experienced in my life. It's been huge, and the past 7 months have been filled with disappointments all up and down the the radar. Just a lot of types of people that I either didn't think I'd have to run into again, or types of people that I was fortunate not to have run into them too often, and now as an adult it's like, oh, like I'm sure I've lived in similar-ish communities like this when I was younger, maybe, but now as an adult it's like, oh, yikes. But I'm seeing it as a challenge, a growth opportunity, a wake-up call, like okay, this is what some of the country is like, and trying to reframe it as maybe this is something that I needed to go through, just as like a reminder, even though the reminder sucks and it's awful. But yeah, and it's really given a drive of like, I can't wait to move to the city. Not to say the city is perfect, but certainly every time I go into the city, I just feel more like, this is like what I wanted. This is like what I'm used to. This is what I came out here for. This is more comfortable, And like I like my nature and all that stuff just like any other person, but seeing visible diversity is definitely like real visible diversity. It's like, oh, that's what I want. I'm tired of seeing Trump signs every time I go outside, like, and that's coming from my point of view, and I clearly have a lot of, light-skinned, white-passing privilege, especially with the blue hair. I think it makes me look a little less Asian. I don't know. And I know, like, there's a lot of privilege going on where I'm sitting at, but even where I'm sitting at, it's just so uncomfortable. So, yeah. And then, being mindful going into the city of, I'm sure, like, I don't make that much money, as I know I'll be going into neighborhoods that are probably in the process of being gentrified, or I will be seen as like a gentrifier because I'm not from New York and I'm pretty light and I'm moving in somewhere that I'm not originally from, but I'm planning on being respectful and all that and not being a problem. So just because I can't like afford anything else above like a certain level if I want to live by myself. If I don't, but then we'll see. But I feel like a lot of it's just like, don't be an asshole and respect people and respect the people that have lived here for a long time, and don't act like you own the area, which can definitely do. So it's the nuances. We're aware of the nuances. Like I understand where I kind of am in the world, but I'm still looking forward to moving to the city. Oh, I need to get out of here. Maybe after like 5 years in the city, I'll be like, oh, actually Long Island wasn't too bad. Or I'll be like, oh, I want to move to like the mountains or the country or upstate New York for some reason and whatever. But right now I'm very kind of here until the lease ends. The apartment is nice. I can't really complain. I do like the apartment. I really want to do like an apartment tour. But I want to wait for my roommate to come back, and then maybe we'll do like a check out our apartment. Because I like watching apartment tours, depending on how they're done. But I don't know. I like how I've set up my room. I like how we've set up the apartment. I like how we've decorated the apartment. I feel like this is one of the first apartments that I feel I've had like a real hand decorating in and feels like I live here. Like I've lived with friends and like that's always been great, but it's like I'm living in their apartment or I've like roommated with people and I know early in LA we couldn't really do much with the apartment because we were like we don't have any money. We don't even have jobs. Or we're working food service or retail or whatever. So it's like there's only so much we can do to the apartment and I definitely didn't have a lot of this art stuff. I really want to do like an art gallery tour video or whatever. I don't have all of my art prints, but I have amassed a collection, having gone to conventions for free on that pro badge. And just I've collected a lot of artwork or just like movie posters that I really liked or whatever, and I feel like I've started to curate this nice collection and I've selected a few of them because I have too many to fit or like art that my grandfather gave me or whatever. But I'd like to do that in the future one day once I have like a nice I think I showed some of it. I think did I do a apartment video in Long Beach? I don't remember, but whatever, we could revisit it. But yeah, I like how the apartment is set up. I like how I've set up my room. It's nice having like my own room. That's the main thing. I haven't had, except for when I did have my own apartment in Long Beach, I haven't had an apartment where I was living with a roommate and had my own room. And I remember even my apartment in Long Beach, that was again another like, this is my first apartment. And I remembered it, I was like, I don't know how to fill this space. And I don't know. It was a good apartment, but it was also had some issues, like there was a mouse problem. Yikes. I don't know. That I had a hard time in that apartment. I was going through a hard time in life. So, and I was still in very like my work was so unstable. My life still felt really unstable. I had some idea of what I wanted to do, but I was just unstable. I was going through that like quarter life crisis. I don't think I was not ready for my own apartment. I'm glad that I had my own apartment, but having my own apartment, living by myself, unearthed a lot of areas that I needed to work on that maybe I'd have an easier time working on if I was living with someone else. It highlighted and revealed a lot of things. So I don't hate that apartment. I didn't hate that experience. And I got full control of how to decorate that place, which I did for like the living room. It was really where I put all that effort in. The bedroom, I was like, I don't know what to do here. But like I was sleeping on a mattress on the floor for like half the time, like that kind of thing. It was like mattress on the floor, desk, my piano is on some boxes, things like that. And now it's over there in the corner because I think it's broken. Whereas here, it's like, I finally bought a nice mattress. I finally bought a bed frame instead of just sleeping on the floors. When I first moved to LA, oh my God, I was on like a sleeping bag mat on a sleeping bag with like an egg crate foam topper and a bunch of blankets on hardwood floor. Like it was like this much a cushion. That was how I slept for like a year. And then the next apartment, we bought a bunk bed. So I finally got like a little mattress from IKEA, like the little 6-inch one or whatever. So then that was like my mattress. And then I moved in with my now ex and we just shared a bed. And then in Long Beach, I had that 6-inch same mattress because we had kept that. I kept that as like an emergency. And then I would like put that mattress on the floor, sleep on the floor, which became a problem when I realized there were mice because I just couldn't sleep. I was like, oh my God, what if this mouse runs on me? That was like a whole, oh my God. And then my friend was giving away a futon, so now I had like the futon and I put my mattress. I don't even think I put my mattress on top of it because the futon was too big. So then there was that, and then I moved in with that same friend, and I brought my mattress, and that was a mattress on a futon. So I never had to buy a bed frame because I was either sleeping on the floor, sharing a bed, or sleeping on a futon at someone's apartment. So this time, I was like, do I do the same thing I did when I was 21 and sleep on the floor? Do I buy a bed frame? And I was like, no, Corinne. 26. I was 27 when I moved in. Buy a bed frame and buy a nice mattress. Which I did. So the point of all this is the difference between my first apartment by myself and like now this apartment, which I don't have by myself, but I have my own room finally by myself, like my own space. And even though I had my own space earlier, I like wasn't using it. It was just like my first space. I wasn't using it to the best of my ability. And I remember like even that apartment, that was like a desperation move because I was going through like a bad breakup and I was like, I can't live in the same apartment with my ex anymore. I need to get out. So I was like, all right, we've got a job where we can afford this for the time being. Let's just go. And I had wanted to make that like a long-term apartment because I did pick it because I was like, I could see myself living here long-term. And I do think ultimately if I had stayed in Los Angeles and I hadn't gone on like all my moving stuff or whatever, I think I could have made it work. Maybe. Because it wasn't a bad apartment. It wasn't a bad spot. I had my own parking spot, but it just didn't become financially feasible after a bunch of stuff upended in my life. But all of this to say, I do like this apartment. I really like this apartment. Even though I don't like the vibes of the area, I do like the vibes of this apartment so far. Knock on wood. I gotta show you guys my party boys. But yeah, and it's been nice having like my own room, even though the room is small. Just like organizing it with a better understanding of like how I work and what works for me and how I can keep things relatively clean. Like it's still cluttered for sure. If my mom came in here, she would have a fit. If like a clean freak came in here, they'd be like, "Why do you have cardboard under your desk? Like why is stuff all over the place? Like why is it like this?" But to me, I'm like this is manageable because I know where everything is. And if I can't see it, I know where it should be. And if it's not there, then it's like, okay, well then where did I, like, there's like a series of places of like, it can only be in XYZ number of places. So like everything has like its own little home, even if the home seems weird or cluttered. And I can like, everything's accessible for me. Everything is set up in a way where it works for me. So it's just, I'm rambling. It's just good. It's like I'm finally like I like the apartment. I do like the apartment. I like our setup. I like how my roommate and I have decorated and arranged it. It feels like I live here, which I think is crucial. Moving into New York City, obviously I'd have to find another apartment, so I'm a little anxious about that. It's like exciting because the rent is finally going down. So like a studio apartment is actually feasible for me instead of having to room with people. Which I might still do. There's like a couple different plans I have up in the air. I'd rather room with someone that I know, but we'll see what happens. But a studio apartment has been seeming really appealing, especially the past week and a half that I've been by myself. And I'm like, maybe actually this time I won't like totally go bonkers, spiral out of control if I live by myself like I did in Long Beach. But yeah, I will say in terms of the vlogging, there is a big chunk of time where I was like, I forgot to get the camera, and then like trying to remember to film or thinking of filming or filming in public would give me a lot of like anxiety or whatever. So I was like, I'm just not gonna do this. This isn't doing anything for me. But sometimes I want to film. And then I think about like when I'm not vlogging, I think about like, what if I did though? And I think, what if I want to like look back on this moment later and like see where I'm at. Like if I'm 35 and watching this, like, oh yeah, that was my 27-year-old self. They're so dumb. Like what if I want that? Because that's the nice thing about when I was vlogging like in 2016 or whatever. One, all my dog's puppy videos are there, and since I don't get to see my dog anymore, I can like go there and watch those videos, which I do. I often go back just to look at him as a puppy. There's like other things where it's like, oh yeah, I filmed about this. That was a funny thing. Or that was a thing that happened, or I did this, or and I did that fairly consistently for like a year. And it's like that's like a time capsule of my life in a way. And I've been thinking over and rethinking and reflecting on like my relationship with art and my relationship with content that I create and like my relationship with my creativity and what I want out of life and what I want to do, what do I find fulfilling, and there's a lot of different things that I find fulfilling. But I was talking to my friend about this last night, and maybe I'll write a more extensive blog post about it because it gets a little lengthy. But like, I like to express myself. Anyone who knows me knows I have an opinion on almost anything. And if I don't have an opinion, then it's like almost a surprise. That's clearly something where it's like, I literally don't care about this. I have no opinion whatsoever. But usually I have some sort of opinion. And the more I learn about something, the more likely I will have an opinion. I have opinions on things that I probably shouldn't have opinions on, like science. I like to express myself. I like to talk, and I'm loud. And usually I express myself in my art, but even then, I feel like I pigeonholed myself into like, we're going to make art, but the art has to do XYZ, or the art has to be XYZ. And that would stall me because I'd be like, I want to draw this, or maybe I should draw this, but then it would be like, does this fit this? Does this fit X? Does this fit like the brand? Does this fit the this? Could I monetize this? Yada yada. Like all these other things that I lost sight of, like, why, I guess. And I knew that for a bit. I was like, okay, because I know for a while I was like, I want to be an independent artist. And so I was like going hard on that with like making the schedule and what I needed to do. But I was having such a hard time following through on actually doing it. I've always felt I had an issue executing. And it's always like bothered me and everything. And now I have some theories on why that may be. Why there's so much executive dysfunction. But at the time it was really frustrating, and there was a lot of doubt, and there was a lot of just like depression that resulted from it on top of like the regular stuff, and a lot of like, why can't I do this? And then on top of that, it was also like I'm not having fun with art anymore. I'm not liking this as much as I used to, or I for once actually do enjoy it, but then at the end it's like the come down is so strong. So I'm like, why? I think that was, and a lot of that happened, it bled into when I was living in Long Beach. I remembered there was a period where I was unemployed, and I was like, okay, this is the moment to make it happen, and it didn't happen. And I think there was just too much pressure on myself to make it happen in such a short period of time when it just doesn't work like that. And I knew it didn't work like that, but I thought maybe I could make it work, and it just wasn't. Because like, it's not like the goals were unreasonable. I know there are people who've done it, like that's where I got the inspiration from, but then it was like, there's so much that I feel like I have to do, or all these limitations that I put on myself, and I was blocking myself because again, I had pigeonholed so much of what I thought I could make and what I could like present and share. So it was just blocking. So like last year I spent the whole time, like my resolutions were just like make art, travel, and be single. And that was like, that's all I need to do. That's all I need to do. And I did all those things. I was like, that's exactly what I did. I just painted when I painted, and I traveled when I traveled, and I stayed single by the conventional meaning of that word. That took a lot of pressure off, where it was like, I'm not putting any more expectations on myself on what I need to do. I would like have little goals here and there. I'd be like, let's try to make this a habit, or let's try to do this or whatever. But I just took all that pressure off. So then this year there are more specific resolutions, and I feel like I've kind of worked on a few of them. I've been trying to keep that pressure off. I've been trying to make those resolutions like, these are things I just have to do, like I just have to do it. And the things that ended up being things that I just had to do are the ones that like I actually stuck to, like cleaning. I've been like, no, I've seen myself when I don't clean, so I like need to be on top of this, right? And then other things are things where I've just kind of like sort of worked towards it. I just have to be reminded of it. Basically, there's been a lot of reflection on like why I make art in the first place. What do I get out of art? Because ultimately art is about like you, right? It's about me. It's like your art is about you, my art is about me. It turned into like, well, I like expressing myself. I want to be heard. I want to be seen. I want people to hear what I'm saying, respect what I'm saying. You don't have to agree with everything that I say, but like, like hear it and take it in, and then affecting people in some way through that expression, right? In some way. Often it's like with the comics, the web comics, it's like, oh, it's laughter, right? Or make someone feel better, and that's like, wow, it makes me feel really good. Or the best case, it like inspires somebody, right? That's great. That's like a me with the audience member kind of fulfilling positive feedback loop. I provide the content, they provide me the reception, and then if it's positive, it goes around. But then it's like, well, what about when I just want to make art just in general, right? What about then? That's where that expression things come from. Whereas like, why do I keep going back to like, what if I made a vlog even though I stopped because I was feeling so much pressure because I couldn't hold up a schedule and yada yada yada? Or why am I going back to blogging even though I stopped for the exact same reasons? Or why am I going back to this or that or whatever? It's like, oh, it's the expression. It's two parts. It's I want to express myself through some form, many forms. I have so many interests. I have like this thing where time scares me. I always say time is fake, but time is also very real. Like the measurements of time, fake, arbitrary. What is a minute? We made it up. It's not real. There's no law that enforces the minute. Why did we decide 60 seconds? There's no rule to it. We just chose a number and we're like, I like these intervals. But the experience of time, the passage of time, that's life. Life is just existing while the rest of the world continues to exist with you. That's all it is. And then that existence leads to things because the earth spins, which gives us like our night and day, and it goes around the sun, which gives us our seasons. So that's the closest measurement we have of like relative time. If the earth didn't do any of that and we somehow were still alive, it would just be like, I'm just like, what even is, there's no way to measure anything. It's just, we're just going. We're just going until we die. And then at that point, it's just like, well, the cells, right? Like when they expire, that becomes like time, right? There's like the earth and then there's like our actual life. And then the things that happen because the weather changes, because things change. Like time is just the experience of change. It's just the rate of change that we experience, and we grow older along with it. It's like we grow and then we decay. It's like a little bell curve. So that's just what time is. And it gives me so much anxiety because if I like stand still, I feel like time should stand still. If I do nothing, I feel like time should also stop, but it doesn't. And that leads to a whole bunch of like, moments. And I think a lot about like, what if when I'm old and I look back on my life, what will that be? Or like legacy, right? Or things like that. Not legacy in like, I feel like sometimes that has like a weird connotation, but more just like, where's my mark, right? How do people know I was here? How do people know I existed? How it's like part that, and then another part of how do I let time know I existed, right? How do I make a mark on time? And art is one of the best ways to do it, because if I draw a line that took maybe 2 seconds, but that was like 2 seconds of time that is now represented by this line of like, I did that, right? And then even if 10 months later, I look at that line, maybe I don't remember it took 2 seconds, but it's still like, oh, I made this previously. And then if I date it, it's like, oh, I made it on this day, right? This and then it's continuing forward. I can still access this thing that I created months ago now in the future. It's like time traveling in a way. Like when I do my paintings plein air and I look back at those paintings, I can remember so vividly how I was sitting, what I was looking at, and like the whole thing. Like even just thinking of the painting, I can think back to like what that was like painting that painting. And I feel like that's true for a lot of plein air stuff that I've done. I really like that about it. It's like a little time machine. It's like a little time capsule. I look at it and then I'm transported back to that moment. And it's like, oh yeah, now I'm suddenly 23 and I'm suddenly at the zoo, or I'm suddenly in Hawaii, or I'm suddenly here or wherever, It's like, oh, and then this is what I'm looking at. This is what I was thinking. This is what I was wearing. Sometimes it can get really involved. So, and I've noticed that really, really happens with like the plein air watercolors. Some of the other doodles or whatever, I don't quite get that thing. It's more like, what was I thinking when I was drawing this? But even that can be like an interesting experience too, of like, I'm so disconnected from where I was when I made this. I wonder what I was even thinking. How did I even do this? How did I sit down and like draw this, right? That which can also be an interesting experience with like yourself. You're like interacting with your past self, but now you don't know what that past self was thinking. So now you're so that whole desire of expression, the I gotta think of like a better way to frame it. I'm gonna write a blog post about this. I know I will, and it's gonna be so beautiful. Or it'll be so nonsense. But just the lasting effect or that permanence. It's like why ancient civilizations like made things, especially those giant monuments. A lot of the times it was like we want to make something that will endure. We want to make something that will outlive us, that will last, that centuries down this will be here and they will see and they will know we made this one time a long time ago, right? And when I visited China, there were like buildings that were like 1,000 years old, 2,000 years old, or like things that were 3,000 years old that were still preserved. And it's like, how do they know it would last this long? And then you think about the life that that thing had, and I know it's like an object and they can't see or feel or anything, but like so much change since that thing was first made, and it has endured and it has seen so much change since it's seen so much time. So I'm not insinuating that I'm going to make anything that lasts 3,000 years or 1,000 or even not like more than 100 or whatever. In my lifetime, I at least for myself would like to create that kind of enduring capsule of like a moment of like I did this when I was this age, when I was living here on this day, right? And that's like that moment, that time, the time it took to make that piece of art is like now represented by that art, and I can go back to it. It's like part of why I like journaling. Part of it is like, well, I find it personally therapeutic while doing it, which is the same for art. But then sometimes I look back and I read and I'm like, what was I thinking? Where was I at? What was I doing mentally? Who was I when I was this and this? And I've journaled pretty consistently for several years, not as consistently as I would like, which is always the biggest regret, but still like enough to be like, oh, here's a journal entry from when I was 16 or when I was 17, when I was 18. Here's several from this year, right? And just seeing, even though I don't talk about everything and often I'm just talking about when I'm upset, it's still like, this is what I was thinking of. And maybe some of it is like the same shit as always, and maybe some of it is different, or I didn't know, or was I naive, or I had a different perspective, or I wanted different things or whatever. It's like you can go back and revisit those journals. It's like time traveling to see a younger version of you. Framing it like that helps put a lot of things into perspective of like what I find appealing about not just art, but like vlogging or blogging or like journaling, even making music or crafts or whatever. A lot of it is like in this moment I really enjoy it. But the more, I guess, revisitable stuff, like that's, I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling at this point, just playing and fidgeting with things, but that's kind of where I've gotten to, where it's like maybe that's like ultimately what it is for me. Expression and that time capsule thing of like I'm capturing this moment. And this is all like new stuff that I'm like, well, that's kind of it, you know. Time really changes when you're in the art zone. The art zone, like the chalk zone. But yeah. Anyways, all that to say, may or may not be vlogging more often or just making more videos. They may not always be art related. Part of me still wants to like scheduleize it. That's not a real word. We'll see. Yeah, I don't want to like have a gap in my life of like I don't know what I was doing then because I didn't document it, you know. I mean, obviously if people watch these, great, hi, hello, thank you. But I'm kind of viewing it less of like I'm making a show for people, right? Which is how some vlogs can come across, right? But I think more of like those family videos, right? Like those home videos. Like why would you record those? Like something fun was going on or something funny was going on, or you just felt like capturing this moment so that you could revisit it, right? And I was always a fan of our family home videos because it was like, oh, do you remember this? Do you remember that? And sometimes like you don't, and other times it's like, oh yeah, this happened or whatever. So I feel like framing it like that, like a scrapbook, you know, that ultimately is for me. And then whoever like in my family down the line or whatever, like kids or grandkids or whoever can just like, here's what Corinne was up to, you know, or just to whoever. It's like it's for me to see like, oh yeah, this is what I was up to, but I still want to share it and express it. So it's like, hey guys, here's what I'm up to, you know? Watch if you want. So I feel like that takes a lot of pressure off and re-centralizes and refocuses it on like me and what it is doing for me. And I think I've been going through like the past, honestly, like the past 2.5, almost 3 years was, getting into that. Definitely like the past 2 years was very, how do we get back into this? How do we make this fun again? How do we make this something that I enjoy and want to do and actively like and not overwhelm me or whatever? How do I make this work for me? Because at the end of the day, I do still enjoy making art. That is still what I like to do. That is still like what I'm interested in, and that is still what I'm about. Even if I'm not doing anything with it, that's like the first thing I go to. It's the first thing I want to do, and like kind of, like I have so many interests, but it's still like this definitely, right? Like I don't want to lose this. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how these go. Maybe it's just going to be a lot of me talking to the camera. If that's not your thing, that's not your thing. Maybe hopefully it'll include like fun snapshots of whatever. Just like having that, now I've captured 40 minutes of time and I can revisit that whenever I want. That kind of thing, right? Like I've caught it. I've captured time. My whole goal, I'm trying to catch time and put it in a little bottle, like I'm freaking Holden Caulfield and Catching the Rye or something. I just want to catch it and put it somewhere so I can revisit it, but also still live in the moment and like still enjoy the present for what it is. I don't want to get so caught up in catching something so that I have it for my future self that I don't even enjoy the moment that I'm catching. You know what I mean? I think that also. So that's pretty much what I wanted to say. I mean, maybe I'm just in like a really high up whatever stage and next week I come crashing down and don't make anything for 3 months. That could happen. But just a lot of reflections, a lot of stuff going on. It's like, wow, I'm figuring stuff out. I gotta figure this stuff out while I'm in my 20s, so when I'm in my 30s, I'm like got more things figured out, hopefully, right? I'm sure all my 30-plus-year-old friends are laughing. As much as COVID has sucked and forced us to be inside with our thoughts, even though I force myself to reckon with my thoughts anyways because I never stop thinking. And I actually do enjoy reflection because I want to know what I'm about. I feel like this year really I've discovered a lot about myself. Like I came in already with an understanding, but then there was some like deep unearthing. I was like, oh, and a lot of it was like not fun unearthing, like, oh, here are my issues, or here's where I'm messing up, or here's what I need to work on, which I've done for the past few years, but this year in particular has really brought a lot of stuff to light, and it's been very challenging. But much like living in Long Island is very challenging, I think this was still needed. I'm not going to say we need the pandemic. I don't want this pandemic. I wish I could have just done this without the pandemic. But it has still provided that opportunity to be like, oh, I feel like it's accelerated that unearthing, that reflection, because of the circumstances we're in. So now it's like, okay. And I definitely feel like I'm in a more secure, stable mindset and understanding of myself now than I was at the beginning of the year. And even at the beginning of the year, I thought like, oh, yeah, I think I know what I'm about. But now I'm like, oh, now I've dug up like all the stuff. And I feel like I just feel a bit more secure and stable, which is really what I wanted this year, because last year was so like, it was exciting in a whirlwind and I was seeing all these different things and it was great and I was like, I'm making experiences and memories. But now I'm like, this year I really came in like, I just want to like chill and careful what you wish for. But I feel like I've gotten that, and now I'm like, okay, I understand it. you know, and now it's like, now we're working on it, which I have been, but now it's like more solidified. Like before it was like jello, and then before that it was like liquid, and then before that it was like I'm trying to catch it, you know, it's like it builds and builds. So now it's like more solid. It's like it's just solidifying more and more of like, okay, here's what it is about. So maybe that's just what happens with age. But because I'm 27. But yeah, so all that to just ramble about what's going on in my life. If you made it this far, and hopefully the actual video is not 48 minutes long, let me know if you've gone through anything similar. You know, I feel like a lot of people, and I know a few of my friends have kind of been forced to reckon or have been reckoning or whatever with certain things in them and reflecting on things, and I think it's a good thing. So if you've been going through something like that or discovered some things about yourself or whatever, then let me know and we can talk about it. You know, I'm interested to see. I also feel like sometimes, like, you'll watch a video and someone will be going through something and be like, oh my god, I'm going through like this like exact same thing. I've had that experience multiple times, sometimes with people I don't know, other times with like friends, where it's like, why are we breaking up at the same time? Or why were we dating the same type of person at the same time? And it's, you know, so if any of this is resonating with you or you're like literally same for yourself, then I would really like to know and we can just scream about it in the comments. So if I even post this video. But yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking in. I hope you guys are doing okay in this hard, difficult, trying time. We're all just figuring things out. We're all just children in big bodies figuring things out the best we can. No one knows what anyone's doing. No one knows what they're doing, which I take comfort in. But yeah. So, yeah. Peace. Talk to you guys later.